The next day, at a cafe, John was feeling quite tired, as he hadn't been able to sleep well, lost in his thoughts. While waiting for his Americano, he noticed that Sia was also there, so he decided to approach her and say hello. Sia, a little concerned, asked what he was doing there, to which John replied that he had just come for a coffee to try and wake up. Curious, he then asked if she was also there for coffee. Sia, slightly embarrassed and a bit annoyed, asked if it bothered him that she drank coffee too. John quickly denied it, explaining that he had just been surprised to see her. She pointed out that it wasn't surprising at all, since it was a cafe near the university. However, John noticed she was blushing and wanted to know if something was wrong. Without hesitation, she asked him if he had said anything to Juna about her the day before. John, slightly confused, assured her that he hadn't said anything about her and took the opportunity to ask if there was a problem. Sia simply said it wasn't important, but hurried off to pick up her coffee. Understanding the situation, John decided to wait for her at a table. As he waited, he couldn't help but think how lucky he was to see Sia so early in the day. When she returned, she asked John if he had smiled at Yuna the same way he had smiled at her yesterday. Nervously, he let out a small laugh, which gave him away. This helped Sia understand why Juna had been so curious, which only confused John more. They both stayed silent for a moment, and while John tried to think of something to say, he realized he actually knew very little about her. Determined to change that, John asked if she liked movies. Sia, without much enthusiasm, said yes. Sort of. Then, a little shyly, he suggested they go to the movies later. She paused for a moment and asked why he wanted to invite her. Still nervous, John explained that it was fine if she didn't want to. He was thinking of just playing board games with Juna instead. After thinking about it, Sia accepted the invitation, saying she would have some free time later. John was thrilled by her answer and told her they could meet up after classes, which ended at 5 p.m. Sia agreed, but warned him not to make Juna suspicious, something John took as a clear sign not to tell her friend. However, John began to have doubts. He asked why he wasn't supposed to say anything. Sia didn't respond. She simply walked away, confirming they'd see each other later. Once she left, John felt incredibly flustered. It was too early in the day to be feeling that way. Later, as they walked toward the movie theater, John couldn't stop thinking about how nervous he was. He had never been on a date before, and he felt anxious about how everything might turn out. If things went well after the movie, it would be a big accomplishment for him. His thoughts were interrupted when Sia asked what time the movie started. Checking the time, John realized there were still 30 minutes to go. At that moment, he figured he should let Juna know he wouldn't be going to the club. He sent her a message saying he was going to see a movie with a friend. To his surprise, Juna thought he was lying, but was shocked to realize he was telling the truth. Sia, noticing that John was on his phone, asked what he was doing. John explained that he was letting Juna know he wouldn't make it to the club. Sia gave him a suspicious look, but John assured her he hadn't said anything strange. Just then, John received a call from Juna. Nervously, he answered to see what she needed. Juna, sounding worked up, wanted to confirm if what he had told her was true. John said it was, and asked if she had called just to verify that. Juna, clearly intrigued, reminded him that he often said he was always alone, which made it hard to believe. Then she asked what movie he was going to see, mentioning that a new one had just been released 2 days ago. John knew which one she meant, but before he could answer, Sia nudged him, signaling that he shouldn't say anything. He got the message and told Juna they'd talk later because he had to go into the theater. However, Juna stopped him. She had one last question. She wanted to know if the friend he was going to the movies with was a girl. The question made John extremely nervous, unsure of how to respond. At that moment, Sia stepped in front of him, and taking the chalice, made John blush deeply. He immediately looked at Sylvia, confused by her intentions. Kira wanted to know why he was taking so long to answer. Since he wasn't responding, she assumed she was right. He was with a girl. Caleb replied that it was a guy, but she asked for a photo as proof, saying she was curious about his love life. She asked again why he was being so quiet. Caleb said he had to go. Kira wished him a good movie and said they'd see each other next week. After ending the call, Caleb asked Sylvia what she was doing. She noticed how busy he had been on the phone and thought he had forgotten about her, still holding the chalice. Caleb pulled himself together and took her hand, which caught her by surprise. They both fell silent until Caleb called her name. Sylvia didn't understand what he was doing. He moved closer and told her he wanted to do it, but she didn't understand what he meant. He clarified that he meant reading the Bible. She thought he had gone crazy, but he denied it. Sylvia couldn't believe they really had a movie to watch, but Caleb told her they could watch it later. Sylvia insisted that she had already bought the tickets, but he said that she was more important. which made her blush deeply. She asked him to take a step back and let go of her hand first. She looked at him for a moment and asked if he was being serious, if he really wanted to read the Bible. He kept insisting that he did. Since what happened the day before, he hadn't stopped thinking about her. He couldn't sleep at all. She couldn't believe his determination. She looked into his eyes and sighed. Moments later, in a magical town, Caleb was sitting on a bed. He hadn't expected her to accept so easily. He thought she would give the opposite answer. Meanwhile, she was in the bathroom. He could feel her presence on the other side. He had to calm down. The chalice was already on the table. He heard the sound of the door, which startled him a bit. It was Syl who had come out of the bathroom. They exchanged glances. She wanted to know what he was looking at and how things had gotten to that point. She noticed how the chalice began to glow. She criticized how it always seemed to be like that and asked if he never got tired of its shine. He said it was her fault, but she remembered how that morning it had the same glow when she was cleaning it. So she cleaned it again, knowing he was crazy about religion, but he insisted that any chalice would glow like that if cleaned properly. She went quiet, then sat down next to him. She asked what they were supposed to do. After all, he was the one who suggested coming there and said they'd follow his plan. He hesitated for a second, which she used as an opportunity to tease him, saying he had talked so much just to end up being nervous. At that moment, he told her it wasn't like that. Then he gently laid her down on the bed. Then she revealed the bread she had hidden along with the gummy candies. He looked a bit nervous upon seeing them, but without hesitation, grabbed one of the loaves, commenting on how good the quality was. She scolded him, saying he didn't need to praise it so much. He ignored her comment and started eating some of the gummies she had brought, which caught her attention and made her face turn completely red. She noticed how he seemed to have an exaggerated fondness for bread, as if he'd enjoy eating it all day long. He knew he had to move on, so as a final preparation, he grabbed a yogurt that was nearby. He could sense that she wanted to read the Bible, which irritated her because she had already told him not to describe everything, but it seemed like he wasn't listening. He denied it, saying he was just giving a description. She told him they weren't friends just because they had gone out once. He reached out to help her open the yogurt more easily, but she asked him to let go. Before she could say anything else, she accidentally muttered a short prayer. He asked if she was okay. Embarrassed, she covered her face and asked if he couldn't tell, calling him crazy. He had gotten carried away by her words. Still, he noticed that she had liked it, which made her feel even more uncomfortable. He saw her fidgeting anxiously, which made her blush even more. She thought he saw her as someone easy. He denied it, and the two of them fell into silence. She looked at him and wanted to know if he had finished the preparations. He wasn't sure what she meant. She had noticed that he had stopped just because she had said a single word. He regained his enthusiasm and began moving again. She didn't know what he was planning. He looked under the bed for another yogurt, something that made Sylvia instantly alert. He started eating it, leaving her speechless. She felt a strange sensation just watching him. He looked at her for a moment, and without saying a word, she handed him the holy water. After looking for the holy water, Sylvia was already tired. She had accidentally spilled some. Meanwhile, Caleb was completely out of it. She asked if he was okay and apologized, saying she had tripped by accident. He told her it was fine. He was just happy that he had made her smile. But she denied it, though he pointed to the evidence, leaving her speechless. She threw him a towel so he could clean himself up. He could see how embarrassed she was, and he found it cute. He began to reach for the Bible. Noticing this, she asked if he was already going to start reading the first paragraph. She asked him to wait a second. She needed to prepare first, but he refused. He couldn't wait any longer. So he began reading the first paragraph of the Bible, leaving her confused. He started reading faster, picking up the pace. He could see how Sylvia's expression shifted to one of joy with each paragraph. He couldn't contain his excitement. It felt like her soul was being purified. She had already told him to stop saying weird things. If he didn't want to hear that, she'd have to silence him, which she didn't quite understand how to do until he showed her. By kissing her. That only made him read the Bible faster, pulling them both deeper into the reading. He asked how she felt, but she didn't know how to answer. He decided to read again while she stared at him. Then she asked him to do it again. But he didn't understand what she meant. She was referring to what happened earlier. He asked her to be more clear. With no other option, she directly asked him to kiss her. That awakened something inside him. He moved closer and gave her another kiss, fulfilling the request she had made. She felt her soul being purified even more, and she began to feel good again. To finish, He started reading the last few paragraphs of the Bible and decided he would go get the holy water. She decided to go with him. But in the end, they both accidentally tripped and spilled the holy water. Both of them were exhausted. Caleb looked at her intently as she lay down. Surprised, he ended up falling on the bed as well. She seemed to be resting after the reading. He asked if she was okay. She told him to stop being silly. She had just fallen by accident. Then she quickly told him to be quiet and gave him a kiss, saying she wasn't done yet. Those words left Caleb blushing. She picked up the Bible and asked if she could continue reading. Without hesitation, he said yes. This time, she began reading the first paragraph. At first, she struggled a bit, but once she finished the first page, she regained her composure. Caleb took the opportunity to grab some bread that was nearby. She felt her soul being purified once again, so she decided to read a bit faster. She took his hand so they could pray together while reading, which helped her read more smoothly. Then she gave him a kiss to calm him down as she continued reading a few more paragraphs. But accidentally, she spilled the holy water again, although this time it didn't seem to bother her. They simply looked at each other in silence. Later, Caleb was stepping out of the bathroom and saw Sylvia lying down, appearing to be asleep. She looked at him and said she'd be leaving in a little while. He could go home first. He said he'd wait, since he still had plenty of time and didn't mind. Visibly annoyed, she snapped at him to go. She needed time to collect herself. She couldn't believe how inconsiderate he was and ended up kicking him out of the room. He didn't understand what had just happened. He asked her to open the door again, but she remained silent. Out in the hallway, Caleb had no idea what was going on with her. She had seemed fine when they were reading the Bible. There was no reason for her to be embarrassed. Suddenly, he came across another couple. Without saying a word, they walked past him, whispering to each other. He couldn't believe how humiliating the situation had become. After picking up his things, he gave one last glance back and decided to leave. On the other side of the door, Sylvia stayed silent. She didn't know what her problem was either. Outside the magical town, Caleb was leaving. He wondered why she became a different person after reading the Bible. Was it because she felt embarrassed, or was he the one in the wrong? Either way, they had spent a good time together, so it didn't matter, although he regretted not going on an actual date. Still, he figured there would be time for that later. From a distance, Kira was watching him. She hadn't expected to see him there. The next day, while Caleb was walking, Kira was behind him without his knowing. She snuck up on him and startled him, leaving him confused. He turned around and saw it was her. She had really scared him. She apologized and asked if he was heading to the club. He assumed she was going too. On the way to the club, she brought up the movie he had gone to see with his friend. He knew exactly what she was referring to. She continued, saying that on her way home, she had seen someone who looked just like him coming out of a magical town. He was surprised. He didn't know she had seen him. He tried to dodge the question, saying she knew very well he had no chance with any girl. In his head, he needed to stay calm. She couldn't have seen him going in, maybe only coming out. He tried to convince her that she must have been mistaken. He had to deny it at all costs. She noticed that even he didn't sound convinced. He asked if she didn't believe him. She knew he was trying to hide something. He looked away. She said she just wanted the truth. Or she'd have to force it out of him. He told her she could do whatever she wanted, because it wasn't him. She stared at him and got closer. She really saw the resemblance and kept analyzing him. He swore it wasn't him. In his head, he knew she didn't believe him. He tried to change the subject, saying that since classes were over, he was heading to the club in the afternoon and asked if she wanted to play board games. He begged her to drop it, and it seemed to work, because she said she wanted to play until sunset. He thought that was easier than expected and told her they'd spend the whole day playing at the club. Still a little nervous, he felt her grab his hand, making him blush slightly. She told him he was hers for the day, guiding him toward the club. He asked her to slow down or he'd spill his coffee, and they kept walking. The next day in Kira's room, she was smiling, thinking about the day before. It had been a long time since they had gone out like that. She wished they could do that every day. She stopped to think and realized he had only done that to shut her up, realizing what a terrible liar he was. She knew it was him in the magical town. She squeezed her pillow, rolling side to side, then let it go. She knew she should be happy for him and his new girlfriend, but she couldn't help feeling frustrated. She wondered if he'd had the chance to eat bread too. She felt her urge to sing grow, and couldn't stop herself from grabbing her guitar. While she played the guitar, she began to imagine Caleb by her side, helping her compose a melody. In her mind, she handed him some bread, and he grabbed the gummies she had brought. As she went to get the yogurt, she felt a strange sensation. She couldn't stop singing while picturing him playing the guitar. Meanwhile, at the club, Caleb and Sadie sat in silence. He was checking the messages he had sent to Sylvia, with no response. He hadn't been able to contact her or see her since that day. He felt like she had probably seen his messages. Was she avoiding him? After a while, he received a notification on his phone and stood up suddenly, startling Sadie, who scolded him for scaring her like that. He apologized, then quickly left the room. He had forgotten something, but Sadie looked at him with suspicion. In room 204, it seemed empty, except for Caleb and Sylvia, who were there. She had begun cleaning the chalice to restore its former shine. He wanted to know if that was the reason she had called him. He was nervous about cleaning the chalice in a place like that. She only asked for silence. He should be grateful she was even doing this. She continued cleaning, making sure every stain was removed. She complained that he was taking too long, but he didn't answer, so she went on cleaning once more. After getting rid of all the spots, she stood up and told him it was his turn, catching Caleb by surprise. She asked what he was looking at. He stepped closer and noticed that she smelled different. When he took out the Bible, he hesitated for a moment, but Sylvia hurried him, so he began reading the first paragraph, leaving her surprised. He asked her to stay calm, otherwise someone might catch them. But she didn't care. She just wanted him to keep reading. He warned her that he wouldn't take responsibility if they were caught reading. She told him to speed it up, increasing the pace. She had been waiting for this for a long time, something he certainly noticed, which only made him want to read even more. To calm down, he gave her a kiss. He noticed she was no longer shy and was facing things head-on. He told her that paragraph was his favorite, so he grabbed some bread to go along with it. She seemed to like the gesture, but asked him to calm down a little. He looked like he wanted to keep going. She commented that his reading technique had improved and couldn't help but join in his reading with a bit of singing. Seeing this, he decided it was time to get the holy water, which she agreed to, but he ended up spilling it by accident. In her mind, she felt like she had truly become religious. Despite spilling the holy water, it didn't seem to stop Caleb from restarting the Bible reading, which he continued at an even faster pace than before. He couldn't help but notice how beautiful Sylvia looked that day, which left her flustered, not knowing what to say. He told her she seemed really interested in reading today, something she denied, insisting he shouldn't get the wrong idea. He simply continued reading the next paragraphs. He asked if she enjoyed reading with him, but she just asked for silence, once again quickening the pace of the reading. She noticed how he had started using a different technique. He explained that this way they could finish faster, something that caught her off guard. As he continued reading, it felt even faster, reaching a deeper soul purification in the process. He saw how impressed she was, and she asked him to try another reading technique, which this time made the reading feel easier. He also found it less complicated that way. She wasn't sure if it was time to go get the holy water again, but he thought it was a good idea, so they both went to fetch it and ended up slipping and spilling the holy water again. Yet this time she seemed more relaxed. They looked at each other for a moment and kissed. Some time later, they left the room. In her mind, Sylvia couldn't believe she had read the Bible with him again, and this time it wasn't because of Kira. She hadn't been able to control herself. A normal person wouldn't have done all that. She didn't understand how things had ended up that way. He looked at her while she wore a discouraged expression. He asked if it was because of something he had done. She denied it. It was just that she had a lot on her mind. He offered to help if she needed anything, but she had already said she was fine, which disappointed him. She thought that, in moments like these, he didn't seem so bad, although she had overheard him that one time in the club, unless it had been a misunderstanding. If that were true, it was already too late. There was no turning back. The next day, Caleb was walking through campus when he suddenly saw Sadie sitting on a bench. He wondered what she was doing there. He preferred to pretend he hadn't seen her, but she called his attention. She expected at least a greeting from him. He didn't understand why she was acting so friendly. She assumed that since they were in the same club, it wouldn't hurt to say hello, but he knew she wouldn't normally do that either. She understood the way he wanted to handle things, so she sent him a message. When he saw it, he was surprised. The photo was of him and Sylvia in the room reading the Bible. She asked him if that would help him see things from a new perspective. He wanted to know how she even got that photo. Sadie started laughing. At the club, he asked why she had brought him there. He thought she wanted to blackmail him, but that wasn't the case for her. So what was the reason? She simply said he had caught her curiosity. He didn't know what she meant by her curiosity. She commented on how Sylvia was an expert at avoiding anyone who tried to get close to her. He already knew she had a tendency to take things too far, but he didn't realize it was that bad. Sadie was surprised that a loser like him had gotten that close to Sylvia, something she just couldn't understand. He felt like she was being a bit mean to him. She asked what was going on between him and Sylvia. He didn't know why he had to tell her. She pointed at the phone she was holding. He thought she wasn't trying to blackmail him, and she denied it. She was just shaking things up a bit. Depending on his answer, she might delete the photo. He didn't know how he could trust her with the threats continuing. She told him he didn't have to do anything if he didn't want to, but she was sure Sylvia would love to see the photo of the two of them. He asked her not to be like that. She asked for the truth before she changed her mind. He sighed and agreed. He explained how he had once asked Sylvia, but she never gave him a clear yes or no. Sadie still couldn't tell if they were actually dating or not. She asked for something more concrete. He knew he had gotten far with Sylvia, so it was safe to say they were dating, though his tone made it sound like a question rather than a statement. He told her Sylvia had been the one to ask to read the Bible first, which Sadie found hard to believe. She told him he had to be more convincing if he planned to lie. She couldn't understand why Sylvia would ask him to read in the first place. She was sure Caleb wasn't her type, so she told him to stop lying. He tried to make her believe it, unsure how to convince her. She decided to play along for now, but that meant she had another reason. He thought that maybe that other reason was Sylvia liked him. Sadie noticed the way he was thinking and couldn't believe he was falling for it. He assured her that wasn't the case. There was one more thing Sadie wanted to know. Was he willing to read the Bible with her? He was stunned, not understanding anything, and blushed at the same time. She was only joking. She enjoyed seeing that expression on his face. She figured he had already imagined it in his head. He asked her to stop teasing him, but she would never forget that look. Anyway, she wanted to know what the real reason behind everything was, to make sense of it all. She asked if maybe he had overlooked something. He thought for a moment. He felt like Sylvia sometimes got jealous of Kira. Sadie wanted something more specific. Sylvia always tried to keep them apart and didn't let him answer Kira's calls. Sadie understood immediately. He hadn't even noticed. She asked if he was blind. It was obvious Sylvia was preventing him from getting close to Kira. He wondered, did that mean Sylvia was jealous? Sadie didn't think it made sense that Sylvia liked Caleb, much less that she'd be jealous. But what she didn't understand was why Sylvia kept reading the Bible with him, even if there was a reason to read it the first time. Maybe there was something more. Caleb noticed where Sadie's eyes were looking. She asked if he had a chalice that glowed a lot, which sounded crazy to him. He didn't feel like he had to answer that. She pointed at the phone again. He said it was just a normal chalice, something she didn't quite believe. If that were the case, its appearance certainly wasn't very normal. She asked if he was good at reading, though she couldn't confirm it unless she heard it herself. She asked once more if he wanted to read the Bible with her, but he wasn't going to fall for that again. She said this time she meant it. He didn't even want to imagine what might happen if they actually did. She told him to forget it. She'd already found out enough. He asked her to delete the photo before leaving. She had almost forgotten. She promised she would delete it in front of him so he wouldn't worry, including the one she had sent him. He wanted to make sure she didn't have it saved in her phone storage, but she didn't see any reason why she'd keep a picture of a Bible reading. She had far more interesting things to analyze than a meaningless photo. Once more, she said she was serious about reading the Bible together someday. Then she shut the door, leaving Caleb alone. He sat on the sofa thinking. Sylvia hadn't done any of this out of affection for him. So what was the real reason? Was it to keep him away from Kira? He didn't understand anything anymore. He didn't know what to think.